We're good. Good morning, good morning, good morning, beloved. I have to say I was a bit lost in the music and I could have just kept sitting here. Thank you, and good morning and welcome to First Unitarian Church of Pittsburgh. It is Sunday, December 10th of 2023. I am Reverend Dr. Kadar Walker and I use the she, her pronouns. I am honored to serve as the minister of this beloved community. For those with visual disability, I'm a middle-aged, light-skinned female with light brown hair in a pixie cut. I wear glasses, and today I'm wearing a red dress with black-colored vines and a very festive Christmas stroll. You are all welcome here, whether you are in person in our sanctuary or on YouTube. We are delighted if you are here now or some point in the future. If you're a long-time member, thank you. If you are brand new and you've never been here before, thank you. You are all welcome, welcome, welcome. We are Unitarian Universalists, one people with many beliefs, many origins, sexualities, and genders. We're a multi-faith community where all are welcome, diversity is celebrated, and questions are always expected. We're growing, we're learning, and most of all, we're loved in the fullness of who we are. If this is your first time with us, if you were online, we invite you to please check out our website. Just Google First Unitarian Pittsburgh. On our main webpage, you'll find a form at the bottom of our main page where you can sign up to start getting our newsletter. Send us an email, introduce yourself. And if you're here in person, please, we have a welcome desk. We'd love to be in touch with you right through the garden in the garden lobby. And we will have social hour following service as well downstairs just down the stairs here or down the elevator to what we call the Undercroft. And if you're online, there is a small dedicated group who gathers after worship on Zoom. You can get that automated link by emailing First Unitarian Pittsburgh. It's one word, firstunitarianpittsburgh@gmail.com. We are an active and engaging community, always finding ways to make good trouble. And today is no exception. During the social hour today, we have the second Sunday of the Alternative Gift Fair. So please, if you have not already found a wonderful way to express our values, please do so. Next Saturday night, I want to make sure you all know that we're having another one of our Coro Latino concerts right here in our sanctuary, and it's going to be absolutely wonderful, I have no doubt. Please, please look to your newsletter. We had a special issue early last week that was featuring all the opportunities during the holiday season, including a solstice, when is the pageant, Christmas Eve, and what is happening on New Year's Eve day. It involves pancakes. I invite you also to take a deep breath. Arrive and feel just a little bit more secure because we have now fully installed and actually working air filters in our sanctuary. And I'm going to do a big old shout out of gratitude. Bob Mitchell, where are you? Bob, who really helped make this happen. And he had wonderful, wonderful help from his wonderful group of elves that did all sorts of testing, but he found the company, there's Bob. We're doing a shout out for you. So we are feeling more confident that we don't need to open the windows in the middle of winter. But please take that long, slow, deep breath, feel a little more comfortable, and arrive in body and spirit. Feel connected to one another in this space, to those who are watching on YouTube, to Unitarian Universalists throughout Pittsburgh, to all people of faith throughout Pittsburgh and this country, as we gather together in community, seeking to create a better world. We turn to our chalice lighting. The symbol of our faith, a flaming chalice, a light in the darkness, surrounded by our faith as Unitarians and Universalists, a spark when our hearts feel despair, a spark when we find love is too hard to risk. We also turn to Advent. The second Sunday of Advent. On this Sunday, we are reminded to be patient. We light the flame and hope that darkness will be dispelled in this holiday season. May the darkness of winter be dispelled in the festival of lights. And may the darkness of ignorance be dispelled in the strength of compassion, reason, and sharing. I invite you all to stand as you're able in body and spirit for hymn 224, Let Christmas Come. I invite you to remain standing as we also recognize last night was the third night of Hanukkah. And we send our hope and our blessings to all our Jewish siblings. And we light this menorah knowing that the first night was on the 7th, and it's traditionally lit at night. So we're recognizing last night's third night of Hanukkah. Praised are you, Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who performed wondrous deeds for our ancestors in those ancient days at this season. Praised are you, Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who has given us life and sustained us and enabled us to reach this season. I invite you to turn to your hymnals for 222, Mi Yalmel.
We'll be singing this in English. You're free to sing it in Hebrew if you'd like. Jill and I will be singing the refrain through once, then join us the second time through. Jill and I will sing the verse, and then join us for twice through on the refrain.
Well, hi, I'm Ward Kelsey. I'm a member of the worship team here. I use he, him pronouns. I'm about 6 feet tall, relatively slender. I could be slenderer, but we'll get there. And I have, well, what I have in the way of hair is gray. Mostly, though, I just have a reflective skull. Anyway. As you know, ours is not a creedal faith. We don't tell people what to believe, but we do have a set of agreements among ourselves as to what we will affirm and promote. And I ask you to join me now in reading these words from your order of service in whatever form you have it. Okay. We covenant to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, acceptance of one another, encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregation and in society at large, the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all, respect for the independent web of all existence of which we are a part, journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse and multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and in our institutions.
Can everyone hear me? All right, excellent. Woo, sorry. There are words here that I need to remember how to say correctly, so I'm using notes. I'd like to tell the Hanukkah story, which every time around this year I take a look at and I learn something new, and I learned some new things today, and I hope that not only will you have a new appreciation of the Hanukkah story, but that you'll also learn something new. So first of all, thank you, Kate. I left your Bible over there. The Hanukkah story comes from Jewish scripture, but it is not the same Jewish scripture that we have in the Bible, Jewish and Christian scriptures there. So you won't find it there. It's actually in another book called the Book of Maccabees. So this story, thank you, is about a time when the Jews were ruled, Judea was ruled by some people called the Seleucids. And those rulers were Greek. And at the time, they were actually really tolerant of the Jews. The Jews were able to practice their own traditions. The Greeks were completely different in their food and their festivals and their gods. And they were pretty tolerant until Antiochus Epiphanes. Antiochus Epiphanes. Epiphanes is a title that means God manifest, but he was kind of crazy. So some people behind his back called him Antiochus Epimanes, which means mad. So he was not like who had come before. And he sort of started to have a bone to pick with the Jews, and he was actually mean and really insulting. He knew that swine was unclean and forbidden, and yet he ordered that a swine would be slaughtered and sprinkled the blood over all of the things that were holy in the temple and over the statue of Moses. And he did all these kinds of awful things. He forced them to eat it. And of course, people were afraid. They're not going to stand up against him. But there was one named Judah Maccabee. And Judah Maccabee insisted that they lead a resistance, that they resist Antiochus and not accept this being forced to give up their ways, to give up everything that was important and sacred to them. And by the way, he also ruined the temple. They actually went in and tore things apart and desecrated the temple, which is something people do when they want to enforce themselves on a group of people who are different. You see that a lot. Judah Maccabee wanted to fight back, and people were afraid because they didn't have soldiers like the Seleucids did. These soldiers were on elephants. They had war elephants and lots of soldiers, but they actually stood up against them anyway, and wouldn't you know, they fought so hard that they actually drove them out of Judea, drove them out of their temple, got everything back. When they went back to their temple, their sacred place, it was destroyed, it was a mess, and the light was out, and they only had enough oil to light it maybe for what they thought was a day. They weren't going to get any more oil, which is what they burned back then, for 8 days. Now understand, oil was really valuable in the ancient world, really, really valuable. And so it may have even been difficult to get. But that oil that they burned lasted the whole 8 days on what we now call the menorah. At least that's the story. And so Hanukkah means dedication. Hanukkah celebrates the rededication of the temple, the sacred place, the rededication of the Jews to their identity and to their ways of being and their ways of worshiping. Of course, today, many people tell this story, remember this story, as one of many to remind us of the importance of religious freedom and the importance of not being oppressive to people who are different, but being not only tolerant, but compassionate. And I think that's everything for the story of Hanukkah. So, did you learn something? All right. Well, I invite you all to join in singing our children out to our classes.
Moonlight, starlight, guide your Well, it's me, Ward Kelsey, again. I neglected to mention when I was introducing myself before that I am 80 years old. And how I lost this hair on the top of my head is that for many of those 80 years, I served as the treasurer at this church. And it was a wonderful experience, but I don't mind telling you I'm a retired treasurer now. However, it is time for us to take up our collection. We do count on the support of our members and friends, both in the form of pledges and in the forms of donations. We have a tradition of sharing the plate in this church. So half the money that we collect in the plate is given to a worthy organization that shares our values. In this case, this month, it's the East End Cooperative Ministry. If you wish to have your donation counted as a payment towards your pledge, please mark on your check or in the envelope that you use for the thing, pledge payment, and put your name on it. And now I'd like to ask the ushers to come forward, and we'll take up the collection.
Oh, my beloved, I'm always so much aware of the sadness that we carry in our hearts. I'm so much aware of those times when we want to celebrate something and we almost feel guilty for doing so. But please celebrate. Celebrate so that our sadness is easier to bear. I shared today that a longtime church member, now former member of the Board of Trustees, Marty Lieb, has entered into hospice as of last night for ongoing health issues. And his wife, Alice, is aware that we're all holding them in our hearts and our prayers. And if you would like to send a card to Marty and Alice, you can find their address in the Breeze database. And I will also be sending out tomorrow in the pastoral care message. Let us hold them in our hearts. I also have some celebration. The Women's Alliance at their annual holiday lunch were able to raise over $1,000 for the Matilda Theis Health Center, which is a great joy. Thank you very, very much. And they're also asking that you please continue to buy gifts. And those the money that for the cards or for the gift cards, Giant Eagle gift cards. But we still need presents for the children. So you can come up after the service and take a card for one of those children, please. And you can bring the gift back next Sunday. When do they have to have them in? Can somebody tell me? Next Sunday, the 17th. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Awesome, awesome. For each of us that's holding those joys and those sorrows, please remember that none of us walk on our journey alone. And so many times we forget that the burden is so much easier when we find someone to share our grief, as well as to celebrate. Please join me in a few moments of silence, of personal prayer and meditation. Spirit of love, help us heal all the broken pieces. Help us mend. Our wounds sometimes are deeper than we want to acknowledge. Spirit of love, ease our way in this life. Remind us of our connections to one another. Spirit of love, lift our hearts, guide our minds and our words and our deeds. Let the love of the universe guide our religious leaders, our government leaders. More than anything, we yearn for peace. We yearn for peace in war-torn countries. We yearn for peace with Ukrainians, with Israel and Gaza, in so many places in this world. We yearn for peace and love, and that the spirit of life be renewed for all of us in this time of joy and sorrow. Blessed be. Amen. Shalom. I invite you to stay seated for 256, Winter Night.
And then I'll cry
This reading by UU Minister Reverend Kathleen McTighe is entitled Hanukkah. Imagine yourself in the midst of the ancient story. You and your friends, the survivors of war and persecution, have finally come home from a hard-won victory. But it doesn't feel like home. It has been shifted, cracked, and broken by war, and it's shadowed by the ghosts of those who have died. You all teeter on the edge of despair when you see the temple, the Holy of Holies, filthy and abused. Your arms ache at even the thought of what it takes to reclaim this space. In any case, what's the use? The sacred oil is almost gone, so the consecrating lamp cannot be lit. Then, in the midst of the exhausted, grieving silence, someone speaks. You hear the voice, small but firm, saying the only words that will let you gather yourselves to go on. Light the lamp. Though the oil has run out, light the lamp anyway, and we'll do what we can. On the wall next to my meditation altar, there is a photo taken in the wake of the horrifying tsunami that struck Sri Lanka in 2004. The photo shows the ruins of a town flattened by the waters, nothing left but rubble. And there, in the midst of that devastation, a damaged statue of the Buddha has been set upright. Its carved face chipped, but still beautiful and serene. It sits there like a beacon, sending out the silent message. Life is still here. Begin again. In Haiti, on the night after a catastrophic earthquake that took so many lives and leveled the city in the utter darkness of a place in which there was no electricity, thousands of survivors in Port-au-Prince gathered at the shells of their churches. They stood in the night all around their shattered spiritual homes, lifted their voices and sang. They poured out sacred songs of praise, of lamentation, and of hope. What were they doing, the people of Sri Lanka who set the statue amidst the rubble? The people of Haiti who lifted their voices against the earthquake? They were lighting the lamps, even though they knew that their oil had run out. There will come a time, for most of us, when we've got to decide whether we'll light our lamps, even when we're sure there isn't enough oil to keep them burning. It doesn't take a literal catastrophe or earthquake or flood for our lives to be swept away. There are other smaller disasters, the long weariness of unemployment, sickness, bereavement, depression, or the other private disasters that make us despair. In the face of these smaller floods and earthquakes, we come back to sacred space. We light a candle, take a breath, and reconnect with the flow of a life infinitely larger than our little beating hearts. A life we are part of no matter what, that calls us back, lifts us up, and sustains us. Light the lamp, though the oil has run out. Light the lamp, and we'll do what we can.
I'm going to name up front that talking about Hanukkah right now is fraught. It's fraught with possible infliction of pain and confusion, of more conflict and a lot of conflict, of getting something wrong. Some of my colleagues aren't even going to talk about Hanukkah this year. They just can't go there in their own hearts. I respect that. It's a complicated story. So let me restate what I have stated several weeks ago to get this off the table. Israel has a right to exist. Palestinians deserve their own state in existence as well. I agree with the United Nations Security Council that we need a ceasefire immediately. And Unitarian Universalists, all of us, speak out against anti-Semitism and any violence against Palestinians, any violence against Muslims, any violence, period. We are here for humanity. And it's also important to note that the situation is fraught with trauma. Generations and thousands of years of trauma. And that really makes things complicated. So with all of this in mind, I tenderly want to name the complications and use Hanukkah as an opportunity, as a way to deepen our understanding about a long and complex story. A storyline with many stories within it and lessons possibly not learned. Here's the first complication. Hanukkah's story is usually presented as the great battle of the courageous Maccabees, 165, 163 BCE, roughly, when they win back the temple from the great, cruel Greek oppressors. And we have the miracle of oil lasting for 8 days and the miracle of their faith. This is the story that we're often told, except that it's not that simple. It's not the only version of the story. It may not be a simple story of heroes against religious oppression or political oppression. Maccabees, even after reclaiming the temple, fought several more years until they drove the Syrians out of ancient Israel and reasserted the Jewish sovereignty. Yet many of their followers ended up leaving the Maccabees because they were severe and orthodox group. Rabbi Nachum Braverman writes this about the complexities of Hanukkah and the story of the Maccabees. Hanukkah commemorates a religious war. The Greeks were benevolent rulers bringing civilization and progress wherever they conquered. They were ecumenical and tolerant, creating a pantheon of gods into which they accepted the deities of all of their subjects. The only demand was acculturation into the melting pot of Greek civilization and religion. He continues, the Jewish community was divided in response to this appeal. Some believed assimilation as a positive and modernizing influence, and they welcomed the release from the Jewish parochialism. Led by Judah Maccabee, with a small group opposed to the Greek ideal and prepared to fight and die to preserve the exclusive worship of Judaism. End quote. Again, that's Rabbi Nachum Braverman. This is a little more complicated than we've been told. At the time of the writing, in fact, Rabbi Braverman stated that given a similar situation in today's world, he's not sure that people would be supporting the Maccabees or possibly just given to assimilation. The story gets more complicated. According to Rabbi Danya Rutenberg, the fight over assimilation got nasty. Jews condemned and killed fellow Jews. A core tenet of the Judean theology was pushed away from the emphasis on community and toward individuality as Jews started to simply fight for themselves. As the Maccabees continued the battle, they got more and more binary, it's our way or the highway mentality. Schisms that were already in the Jewish community, those rules and all of their laws were exacerbated, extremism fermented, and corruption increased. These schisms helped lead to the Hasmonean Civil War in 67-63 BCE, about 100 years later, which ended with the land of Israel becoming a vassal state of the Roman Empire. This is a really complicated story. Again, that is Rabbi Danya Rutenberg. As the whole story actually doesn't begin with a reclaimed temple. It begins with a dream that shows the more full, complex narrative. And I'm going to tell you about this dream, this story that's been passed on for generations and generations. And I'm going to use the term Zion in this story. And I'm going to use the biblical definition of Zion, which is a Canaanite hill fortress in Jerusalem that's been captured by David and called in the Bible the city of David. Zion can refer to one of three places: the hill, where the most ancient areas of Jerusalem stood, the city of Jerusalem itself, or the dwelling place of God. Here's the dream. Long, long time ago, many, many generations, there was a very old man who lived in Syria. He was very wealthy and had a large family. He had daughters and sons and children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. He had great wealth and great love surrounding him. And one day he said, "I've had a dream. We have to leave. We have to go to Zion." His children and grandchildren around him shocked and said, "What are you talking about? We're comfortable here. We're free to follow our faith. We have land, we have wealth, we have everything. We can't bring all this with us to Zion. You're chasing an old dream, Father." The old man was stubborn and he said, "No, I've had a dream. I had a dream from the great Rabbi Meir Baal Hachnes. This is the great miracle doer. Rabbi Meir Baal Hachnes told me that I and you, all of us, must go to Zion, and so we must do so." They argued and argued, but finally the children really had no choice, and the grandchildren, the great-grandchildren, they gathered the very basics of their needs. They sold everything else or gave it away, and the whole family took to the road. And they knew that there would be thieves on the road. They knew that there would be people, robbers, who would steal their wealth, and they would make them pay road fees and taxes, and that is what happened. It was a difficult journey. And by the time they actually got to Zion, they had nothing left. Nothing left. But they had their faith. They went to Tiberias, and I went to the great grave of Rabbi Meir Baal Hachnes, and to give gratitude. And they looked for a place to stay as well, but they could not find anything right away. But their father, 106 years old by now, said, "I will sleep here by the grave of this great rabbi, the miracle doer. I will sleep here by his grave." And they're like, "No." Any child or grandchild would say, "No, you're not sleeping out in the open on a grave. No." But he was a stubborn man and said, "This is what I shall do." So he did. He slept by the grave of the great rabbi, and he had another dream. And the rabbi said to him, "You have done well. You have come to Zion. And this is the dream of our people. Is there anything else I can do for you?" And the old man said, "Yeah, we don't really have a place, a house, or any income. Can you help with that?" And the rabbi said, "Sure, go buy some garlic and plant it." Okay. The old man woke up and instructed his children to go buy some garlic and planted it. And there was the blessing. With each sale of their garlic, they were blessed, and their wealth grew again, and their family found a new life, and they were blessed. This is the dream the dream that has been passed on from generation to generation of a home, of a place of safety, of religious freedom. We all have dreams. Dreams that are held by just one person bear strength and power, but dreams held by an entire faith, a tribe that had had no home for so many generations, is particularly moving and challenging. And it becomes part of their identity. It's their narrative, their story. The challenge is that others have dreams too. Palestinians have dreams, and right now they have a valid terror of their lives and their homeland. Unfortunately, our dreams, like the Jews, come in conflict with one another. Horrific. The Jews, we know, throughout their time have been a small tribe and have experienced horrific persecution, pogroms, and the Holocaust. But yet their dream has also pitted them against other people in other lands and other places. They were all because the Jews were seeking a faith that was different, a faith that where they practiced a different kind of religion than everybody else, and it was a very radical idea at the time. One people and one God. It was a radical idea. You cannot underestimate the impact that it's had upon human history. It inspired two other great faiths, Christianity and Islam. One people, one God, except that now monotheism, it's my God against your God. It changed human history. Each monotheistic faith, and too often the Jews and their small tribe has been caught in the crossfire. But the heart of the Jewish identity lives on, a journey of a relationship with God and a dream of a homeland, even if that land is already occupied. This dream, this vision, has carried them for over 4,000 years, creating tension with surrounding cultures or merging into melting pots. Some of our Jewish siblings have simply closed ranks, gotten more conservative and closed the doors. Others have simply assimilated. They've sought balance. Many have given up and simply disappeared through intermarriage. But due to these assimilations and the change, the stories, the holidays, the holy days, the Jewish identity has changed. Hanukkah is one of the biggest examples. It was a minor holiday until the 19th century Jewish Enlightenment. And they began facing all of the rising revelry of Christmas throughout the world, particularly in the U.S., though the revelry of Christmas was pretty, loud, as I've preached about before. And they felt like, maybe we need our own winter holiday, and they began to explore that and became the holiday of contrast. In today's world, we are still challenged, are we not, maintaining faith against assimilation even for Unitarian Universalists, as our Jewish siblings are. They seek recognition of their homeland, and now they are in this horrific, bloody conflict. And many have accused Israel of becoming the very oppressor that they have long feared and fought. Hanukkah, I should note, should never be used as a metaphor for Jews versus the Muslims. Hanukkah is a different story, different time, different players, but it offers an invitation to look back and review the lessons perhaps not learned. A narrative that is not reviewed and questioned is no longer pliable. It's no longer in relationship. It's no longer useful, and it can become rigid and dangerous to the storyteller as to all those who follow that story. So as we unpack this complex story and history of Hanukkah, here are some lessons. Binary thinking is frequently dangerous. It's rarely helpful. We can also be reminded of the critical importance of letting everyone worship who they wish, to have their religious practices. And in this mutual coexistence, one story does not have to be the story. We can all have different stories about one place, such as Jerusalem. We can learn and be reminded from the Talmud to the Quran, to the Gospels, to the Vedas, to the Sutras, and the Tao Te Ching, and our own Unitarian Universalist values that every person is sacred. Every person is worthy and important. This is a common thread through almost all of our religions. None of us is disposable, not a single child. Not even a baby in an incubator. Not even a baby in an incubator. None of us are disposable. And on this night of Hanukkah, there are candles being lit out of faith. There are strings of lights that are being plugged in. There are lamps in bomb shelters that need to be lit. There are chalices and menorahs that need to be lit in our hearts, in our minds, in our homes, in our places of worship and in public places. Even as our own hearts are shattered, let us choose to be the miracle. Let us be the one that reaches past our exhaustion, past our despair, past our fear and confusion. For the miracle of Hanukkah is one another. We are the ones who have been passed on from generation to generation throughout humanity. In Jerusalem, a city of three faiths, in kibbutzes that were decimated, and in Gaza, a place of utter destructions, people are lighting their candles. People are lighting their lamps in the darkness. They are being miracles unto this world, and we need to hear their cry. But most of all, let there be our hearts engaged for that cry of peace and the miracle of love that surrounds us all. Amen. Peace. Salam. Shalom. I invite you, take a deep breath and stand as you're able for 221. Light one candle. And as you sing these lyrics, know the story for its complexity.
Light one candle for the Maccabee children, with thanks at their morning
invite you to remain standing as we extinguish our chalice. The words are found in the order of service as well as our hearts. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. As this chalice, we are not letting our flame be extinguished in our hearts. We're going to share it. We're going to share it for all who need it. Go home and light the fires in our hearts and our minds. Let the world know that love exists, that peace exists. This is the miracle. Go forth and be that miracle. Return again with love.
Thank you.